wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show, and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Byron Matthews. He is the president and CEO at Heiman Group. Byron, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you.
I'm excited to chat with you today, Byron. We're going to be talking about how sellers are becoming content marketers. This is something I've been talking to a lot of my sales friends about lately. I'm excited to dive into it with you. But before I do that, I'd love for listeners to understand just kind of the context of what you're all about and what Heiman actually does. So can you explain that to us?
Yeah, sure. So Heiman Group is one of the world's largest sales and service performance firms. We help companies sell more and service better. We offer consulting services, training services, technology, and research, all centered around helping companies sell more and service better.
Love it. I love it. So Byron, as we kind of dive into this topic, this idea of sellers becoming content marketers, when we were talking about this offline, you mentioned that the overarching idea here is that B2B sales is just getting tougher and tougher, and there's this need to add value in the sales process now. Can you expand on this idea for us?
Yeah, sure. So here's what we're seeing. We operate in over 38 countries, and we've got this huge research engine that just studies the world of sales. And by the numbers, in every region, what we're seeing is selling is getting harder. So essentially, buyers are getting better at buying faster than sellers are getting better at selling. And the numbers are proving that out. So if you look at percent of reps that make quota, aggregate, across all regions, all industries, it's about 53%. That's down 10% from 2012. Now, you will want about 2/3 of your reps to make quota, because if everyone makes a quota, it means the comp's too low. But 53% is not a good number. And so when we kind of dig into this, what we're seeing, again, is just selling is getting harder. Buyers are innovating faster than sellers are, and the traditional sales models aren't working. And what I mean by traditional sales models is when a seller would come in, traditionally they would go in, they would ask really good questions. What are your needs? What's going on? And then they would go back and get their stuff, and then they would position their solution based on those needs. That's a pretty standard solution selling model. Well, honestly, buyers are way too informed now. They don't engage sellers until they're much further down the buying process now. So that traditional approach isn't good enough. It's not over. Understanding customer needs are imperative, but it's not the only thing you do now. That extra thing you got to do now is really understand your customer or your buyer and provide them value in the sales process. Understand their needs, but then understand what's going on around their world. Understand maybe the relationship between them and their customers or their competition or whatever it might be going on, and bring insights and data and value and content into that discussion so you can differentiate yourself by the way you're actually engaging with your customer and the way that you're selling. Now, that's, sounds okay, let's go do that. Well, that's actually pretty hard to go do. That's hard just to go tell sellers to just be an expert and bring data and insights into the conversation. They need help. And where often they need to go is marketing and content. And so what we're seeing is we're doing a ton of engagements where we're actually working with marketing to, help bring content and data into the hands of a salesperson. And so we like to say, salespeople are becoming content marketers.
So Byron, as you've been stepping into these engagements where you've been helping kind of equip sellers with the type of content they need to effectively kind of add value in the sales process. What have you seen in terms of alignment? Has marketing and sales been pretty aligned? It's just a matter of, sales not, knowing what to ask for, or what have been your thoughts, as you've gotten closer to the problem there?
Yeah, it really does depend on kind of the maturity of that collaboration between sales and marketing. There are some organizations where that's worked well in the past, and now it's just a new era, so it's a new level of collaboration. There are other situations where that's fairly disconnected, and so to put a more sophisticated requirement on that process has been a challenge. So here's what I mean by that. Historically, what we would have considered strong sales and marketing alignment, would really happen at that, macro level where value proposition and messaging playbooks, for example, were being built that included marketing and sales, and that was, put into the hands of salespeople. Some organizations have been doing that for a while, and that's been successful. Well, the requirement that I'm talking about now is a much deeper level. It's providing content that has situational fluency built in it based on a very specific customer example. That content is typically in bite-sized pieces. It's much smaller. It's much more nimble, much more agile. And so there's a lot more of it. And a good example would be with a client I'm working with now, where they have put ROI calculators and case studies and a lot of content around various different situations based on industry, potential, and or where they are in the buying process. There's just a lot more content. But they are able to do that because they've been in the mode of working together quite a bit. We've had some organizations where, honestly, sales and marketing haven't been that collaborative and aligned. To put a pretty tough requirement to say, okay, well now, hey, marketing, help us with content regarding this situation or that situation, and help us really think through all the different various, ways that we may need your support in terms of content. That's a pretty big requirement. And honestly, one of the silver bullets in there is technology in terms of how that's bridging some of the gap.
I'm really ashamed to admit this, but we went the first 3 years of our business without having a single case study. I know, pretty ridiculous. So I finally broke down and had Kappa 99 create a couple case studies for us. We sent them some examples of other case studies that we really liked. Then we sent them the stories and the results that we wanted to include. After a few rounds of revisions, we now have 2 beautifully designed case studies that we send to pretty much every one of our prospects. When you sign up with Kappa 99, you get unlimited graphic design and unlimited revisions for just $399 a month. Head over to b2bgrowthshow.com/design and try out their 15-day free trial. That's b2bgrowthshow.com/design. Let's get back to this interview.
All right. Another thing that you had mentioned offline, Byron, is just this idea that with this reality that sellers are becoming content marketers, it's the talent profile of sellers is changing. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, because if you go back to what I was saying about the profile of the seller, or I should say the selling model evolving, one of the pieces in there I talked about is it's actually more sophisticated. You've got to add value in the process. Well, that's not it, and everybody's not built to do that, right? I mean, you need to think differently, to understand your customer's world a bit more. Oftentimes takes a lot of analytical skills. To be kind of generic about it, here's essentially what we're seeing. We bought this company from IBM called Talent Analytics, and it has just thousands, or I shouldn't say thousands, millions of profiles and content and assessment data. Here's what we're seeing. The profile of a sales professional in the past would lean more on EQ being more important than IQ. Doesn't mean they're both very important, but if you just had to kind of bend it one direction, you would say relationship traits are really, really important. In the future, we think it's more analytical traits and IQ being more important because of the sophistication around being able to drive value in the sales process and being very comfortable working in kind of technology and data-rich environments.
No, that makes perfect sense, that as the buyers are coming into the sales process more and more informed, the need for relationship or relational ability is much less. So that's, but I never thought about it that way. That's fascinating. Byron, you have a book coming out, I think relatively shortly. Can you tell listeners about that?
Yeah, it's called Sales Enablement. One of the fastest growing trends that we're seeing in selling organizations is this development of sales enablement functions. And essentially what that means is there's a recognition that selling organizations aren't ready for this change. Again, buyers are getting better at buying faster. So what do selling organizations need to do? They're creating these sales enablement functions to transform selling processes and sales models for all the things we just talked about, a minute ago. Help bridge the gap with marketing, help think about how to, bring content services inside of the selling organization. And so this essentially is the first book in the market that really helps with that blueprint. How do you establish a sales enablement function? How do you think about collaboration with marketing, for example? How do you provide the right technology tools? And it really kind of gives organizations this blueprint to get these functions started more quickly and honestly more efficiently.
Love it. And when do you know when the book is going to be available?
Yeah, you could pre-order it right now on Amazon, but widely available in April.
Love it. Awesome, Byron. Well, this has been fantastic. If somebody listening to this, they want to stay connected with you, they want to learn more about Miller Heiman Group, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Yeah, I would say just go to our website. Our website has the information about the business and certainly has a lot more information about what we're talking about here and can easily get connected into our firm.
Love it. Awesome, Byron. Well, again, thank you so much for your time today. This has been great. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.